How's everybody doing? I hope you had a fantastic weekend. I thought for today's fun activities, we could start thinking about the beach. The days are getting warmer. It's continuing to be sunny out, and there are so many beaches to really enjoy on Long Island. We have beaches on the North Shore, and we have beaches on the South Shore. The North Shore beaches are very rocky. That means that when you walk on the beach area, you'll explore and discover so many beautiful, interesting rocks. And there's also huge, what I call boulders. That means those are huge, enormous rocks. If you go to the South Shore, there are not a lot of rocks. All the rocks on the South Shore have been ground up and weathered. That means that when a rock is in water, salt water especially, and the winds and the currents move the water, the rocks tumble. And as the rocks tumble together, the rocks get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And those rocks, when they rub together, turn into sand. And I know Miss Beth has talked to you a lot about the different kinds of rocks that we find on Long Island. So, thinking about the beach, thinking about rocks and sands, we are going to make sand sculptures today. And we are going to begin by following a sand sculpture recipe. So, the first ingredient is sand. I went to the beach and I collected a few cups of sand and put it in a container and brought it home. We need 1 cup of sand. So I'm going to measure out in my measuring cup 1 cup of sand. Now, boys and girls, if you're on the beach and you're collecting sand, you can pick out all the bigger rocks and take them out so that you have smooth sand in here. Okay, here is my 1 cup of sand, and I'm going to pour it in to this container. Now, the next ingredient is cornstarch. And we use cornstarch for magic mud or oobleck. A lot of times, if you're baking at home, recipes call for cornstarch. I'm going to put in just a 1/4 cup. So, I spoon in a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. Next, I have water in here, and I'm just going to put a teaspoon. I look for teaspoon in my measuring spoons. 1 TSP is a teaspoon. And the last ingredient is glue. You can use school glue or Elmer's glue. And we need a 1/4 cup of glue. This takes a few minutes to just drip in there. And it's dripping away into our measuring cup. Okay, and I'm going to slowly drip that in. And as it's dripping in, I start mixing it. I want to make sure I get all the glue in here. And the mixture, the sand mixture for sculpture starts to get crumbly. And you just keep mixing it over and over again. And you want to make sure that the cornstarch and the sand and the glue is all mixed together. And once it starts to form little balls, you can start playing with it. And I'll show you that in a minute. Now, here comes the messy fun part. After you use a spoon, you can use a regular spoon or a wooden spoon. It washes off with soap and water. I'm gonna get all the extra mixture in here. Now, you start using your hands. And you want to squeeze the sand together till it starts to form a ball. And you squeeze and squeeze and squeeze the sand sculpture mixture. And what starts to happen is the glue and the cornstarch stick to the sand. And you have to really knead it together. That means you have to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with the sand sculpture mixture. And I'm going to add a little bit at a time to make it a little bigger. And once it starts to get hard, you can start to have fun with it. And you can work on the table. You can work in a tray. You can work in a bowl. I like to work on a flat surface. So I just have a plate. And sand is going to get everywhere. The extra bit, I just like to rub off back in the bowl. So here I made a small ball of our sand mixture. And what I like to do is when they're small like this, I like to make thumbprints. So on this one, I take my thumb and I gently push, not too hard, and I make my thumbprint. Now, what's really special about this sand sculpture is as it dries, it starts to harden. And that's what makes it into a sculpture. But before it dries and hardens, I'm going to make this a nature thumbprint sand sculpture. So this morning, it's a beautiful day. I went outside and I collected some nature. And I'm going to show you what I like to do. I have a rock. And remember, sand comes from big rocks. This one has crystals in it. And I'm going to take it and gently stick it in. I have another color rock. Rocks come in many different colors and sizes. And I'm going to just stick it in my thumbprint sand sculpture. I also went on a leaf hunt and found a maple leaf. I'm going to stick it in there. Sometimes if the stem is too long, you break it off. And you stick it in there. I also have hundreds of these flowers. This is called spiderwort. And I thought I could decorate with a petal to be gentle. I also found, whoa, maple seeds. And this one's so special. It has 2 stems with 4 maple seeds. And look at the colors. They're like red and green and brown. So I'm going to just stick this in my sculpture. I also found something called Queen Anne's lace that I have growing in my yard. And I have about 100 of these, so I could pick just one. I'm going to stick that in my sand sculpture, like that. And I think I can fit one more. I have hundreds of these. This is an azalea. And I just picked one azalea. Look at that color. Really reminds me of spring outside. I'm going to find room for that on here and stick it carefully and gently on here. My sand sculpture is starting to dry. So when you're sticking very special things in your sand sculpture, you have to do it quickly but gently because it starts to dry. And here I made a thumbprint sand sculpture. Now, boys and girls, I made a few others that I'd love to share with you. This one, when I look at it, reminds me of the beach. I'm going to just name a few seashells that I picked on the beach. Here's a blue mussel. Here's a slipper shell. Here's a channeled whelk. Here's a clam. There's a little bit of jingle shell, Indian paint rock, beach glass, which I love finding. Beach glass is when you find glass on the beach, but it's really soft around the edges and it's not sharp anymore. It turns into beach glass. And a seagull feather that I found on the beach. And lots of rocks. Let me show you another one. This one is still drying. So I took the sand sculpture mixture. I rolled it in a ball and I just started sticking things in it. I have an oak leaf, a maple leaf, another type of maple leaf, and some rocks. And this one is still drying. I thought of the beach again, and I have a lot of seashells and beach glass at home. So there's some beach glass, the channeled whelks, a snail. These are snails too. Inside, they're not alive anymore. Inside, there used to be snails. This is a mud snail, channeled whelk snails, and a jingle shell. And when this dries, and it's very hard, it's time to then lift it up off the plate, and you could keep it at home forever. Just be very gentle when you lift it up. So this one, when it dried, I just lift it up very gently. Now, boys and girls, if you decide to use flowers and petals and leaves in your sculpture, in a few days, the petals and leaves will start to change because they don't have water anymore. They're going to start to crumble up and shrivel up, and you'll see the changes that happen to a leaf or petals when they don't get water anymore. They start to dry out. So it's interesting to observe through the days the changes that happens. So boys and girls, on nice sunny days or even on cloudy days, beaches are open. Be safe. Go with your family that you've been home with and explore the beach. Go on a rock collection, go on a seashell collection. You can come home. You can even do this project outside or inside if you don't mind cleaning up all the sand and cornstarch and glue and have fun. You can make little sculptures, you can make big sculptures and have fun with it. We have to do one more thing today. We have to feed Candy's cousin. Let me go get him. Here is Candy's cousin. Let's see if he's hungry, boys and girls. Let's see if he's going to eat. Here he comes. Ah, he's eating. Oh, he's happy today. He says, hello, boys and girls. He says, go out and play and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye, boys and girls.